Most people going through a great divorce spend months negotiating what's fair, but nobody stops to ask what's actually functional. And that difference between fair and functional is exactly where retirement gets quietly derailed. Here's what I see happen. Two people sit across from each other, assets get divided 50-50. Everyone signs the paperwork, and on paper, it looks fair. But retirement doesn't work in percentages. It works in income. And what looked balanced on a spreadsheet doesn't always produce equal income on the other side. That's the part nobody warned you about. But most people walking through a gray divorce don't know what questions to ask. Therefore, by the time the damage shows up, the decisions have already been made. That's what I want to change today. I'm Dustin Rudolph, founder of Legacy Ascent Wealth. I work with retirees and pre-retirees to build retirement income plans that are tax efficient, intentional, and built to last. Even through major life transitions like this one, nothing here is personalized financial advice. But if you're going through a gray divorce or even beginning to think about it, this video is specifically for you because the decisions you make right now will shape your retirement for the next 20 years. When you're married, retirement income runs as a coordinated system. Social Security, pensions, portfolio withdrawals. Everything flows into one life built around two people. It's flexible, it's efficient, it works. But after divorce, that system doesn't just change, it splits. Now you have two households, two expense structures, two tax returns. Therefore, what worked beautifully as a combined plan no longer works the same way individually. The income doesn't double, the expenses don't halve, and the gaps start to form in places you can't see yet. That's where pressure builds. Not immediately, over time. Let's start here, because most people going through a gray divorce don't know this exists. You may be eligible to claim Social Security based off of your ex-spouse's record, even if they remarried, even if you haven't been in contact in years. But here's where I see people get hurt. They see a monthly number, they say, that seems fine, and they file. Therefore, they've locked in a decision that shapes every other income decision for the rest of their life. Because Social Security isn't just a check. It's the foundation everything else sits on. Claim it wrong, and you're placing unnecessary pressure on your portfolio for the next 20 years, 30 years. Claim it strategically, and it quietly subsidizes everything else you're trying to do. Now let's talk about taxes, because this is where the most financial damage happens. Quietly. When you were married, you filed jointly. That gave you wider tax brackets, more room, more flexibility. But after divorce, you file as single. Your brackets shrink significantly. Therefore, the same IRA withdrawal that barely moved the needle before now lands at a higher marginal rate. The same income that was fine for Medicare last year could trigger IRMA surcharges this year. Same assets, higher tax, less to keep. And if this isn't planned for, it doesn't show up immediately. It shows up later, 5, 10 years in, when your options are narrower and the cost to fix it is higher. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Take a client. Let's call her Carol. Married, combined retirement income of $160,000. Assets split 50-50 in the divorce. Her half included a large pre-tax IRA. Distributions were still required, but now, filing as single, those same distributions hit a tighter bracket. Same withdrawal amount, same account balance. Carol was keeping less, therefore the plan wasn't wrong, it just wasn't rebuilt. Here's one I want you to sit with, because this is the mistake that looks like fairness. Assets get split 50-50. Everyone signs. Everyone feels like they got a fair deal. But fair doesn't mean functional. $1 million in a pre-tax IRA is not the same as $1 million in a brokerage account. Pension is not the same as a lump sum. Some assets are pre-tax. The government has a claim on every dollar you pull out. Some are after tax. They're actually yours. Some generate income, some generate flexibility. Some do both. And if you don't understand the difference going into the settlement, you can win the division on paper and still come out behind. That's the illusion. When you were married, there was a built-in safety net. Two people, shared resources, shared decisions. But after divorce, that shifts entirely on you. Your coverage, your costs, your decisions. Therefore, if healthcare isn't part of your rebuild, it becomes one of the largest unplanned financial risks in retirement. Not because it's likely to happen tomorrow, but because when it does, you're now the only one absorbing it. And the cost of not planning for it is almost always higher than the cost of addressing it now. This is the part that nobody talks about enough. Divorce is emotional. We get that. And big financial decisions get made inside that emotional window. Keeping the house because it feels familiar. Making quick decisions just to move on. Signing off on a settlement that looks clean, but it isn't. Those decisions don't show up right away. They show up 5 years into retirement. When your withdrawal rate starts climbing. When your tax bill looks different than you planned. When the option you gave up in settlement turns out to be the one you actually needed. That's when clarity matters most. And that's when having it costs the least. Great divorce doesn't have to derail your retirement, but it will quietly erode it. If you rebuild on a plan still designed for two, fair doesn't mean functional. A 50-50 split doesn't mean 50-50 income. Therefore, the right path forward isn't just about dividing what you built, it's about rebuilding something that actually works for your life now. Your income, your taxes, your decisions. Coordinated, intentional, built for one. If you're navigating this right now, or even beginning to think about it, this is one of the most important times to slow down. Not to react, not to rush, but to get a clear picture of where you actually stand before the decisions are made. If you'd like to work through this together, I offer consultation specifically for situations like this. The link is in the description. And if this video helped you think about something you hadn't considered, that's exactly what this channel is here for. Subscribe, and I'll keep bringing you the clarity that most people never get.